Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello out there and welcome inside another edition. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. I'm Jerry Coleman. He's the Orioles Hall of Famer, the 14-year MLB veteran. His name is Mike Bordick. We're producing brand new content every day, even in the off season on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course X and YouTube. All at one address, Bmore Sports Pod. If you're watching, you can see it. If not, write it down. Bmore Sports Pod, subscribe. And you may be eligible for our final Lido Pizza gift card. I know Josh Rogers is enjoying one right now. All right, today it's episode number 40, our final episode, folks. That's right. We'll be joined by Orioles Hall of Famer, the legendary Rick Dempsey is just ahead. Mike and I also provide our thoughts on what Mike Elias had to say last week about Grayson Rodriguez being traded away to the Halos. And we'll discuss if anyone is worthy of the Hall of Fame come next year. But let's bring in our featured guest. He is sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today by going to pappascrabcakes.com. That's pappascrabcakes.com. And we welcome in Orioles legend and Hall of Famer Rick Dempsey. Rick, thanks for taking the time and being with us, man.
Wow, thanks for having me. It's been a while since I've talked to some baseball people, so forgive me if I forget your name.
All right, well, that being said, again, glad to catch up. Tell us what you've been up to. Is baseball still a part of your life these days?
Well, it is. I mean, I get around a little bit. I've got the academy in Baltimore still. I show up a couple of times a month there and put on some catching clinics, and we let Bordick do the infield and talking to the kids. He's fantastic. That guy is really good with the kids. I wish now he's down in Florida now, and he's got to come back to either California or Baltimore and get back involved again. So never know. We miss him.
Depper, I love the fact I've seen you give your lessons, man. And, I love old school baseball. Catching, though, nowadays has changed dramatically. What are your thoughts on how a catcher, gets down on the analytics calls the game?
Mike, it's the analytics, and analytics is not good for defense. If you stop and think about it, when a catcher goes to one knee, he's giving up the stolen base, so he's taking the pitcher out of a possible double play situation. And let me tell you, you can ask every pitcher that's ever stepped on a major league mound, what's his best friend? He goes, the double play, and so, you kind of defense is what won the World Series for the Dodgers this year. The last couple of games, turning those double plays, they were really behind the 8 ball there for a while. It happens every now and then. They've got a powerful team, guys that really hit really well. Ohtani's definitely one of them. But I'll tell you what, I give credit to Toronto. They shut them down for quite a bit of that entire series, and then it got down to that 7th game. And what happened, it really comes down to the little fundamental things, Mike, things that Earl Weaver and all the great managers I played for, that comes down to doing those little things, and base running killed Toronto, and it cost them the series.
Yeah, on one hand, you had Los Angeles, who had all the money, but Toronto was a top 5 payroll, I believe, or at least top 10. In retrospect, but they were a team that went from last to first. And I know a lot of Oriole fans are pinning their hopes on something like that in 2026, Rick.
Well, I'll tell you what, they've definitely got the talent. They have had the talent. Mike Elias got there, first round draft picks 3 or 4 years in a row, whatever it was. But bringing good young talent to that ball club has just been a mainstay with the organization. They haven't kept themselves in the best of shape, and I think that has been the key for that all along. The talent is there, but sometimes, you're missing a lot of the players that are really a big part of your offense and defense, and it has really hurt the Orioles over the last couple of years.
Hey, when you say not in shape, do you mean just because they had 70 injuries last year and almost set a record? Or are you just talking about their general, in shapeness, not being able to go 162 games?
Anybody goes home and 3 times a week you lift a little weight and here and there and everything. But Mike, Major League Sports, and not just baseball, but Major League Sports is a year-round job. If you want basketball, you want baseball, you want football, the day the season's over, you go home and you relax for one day, you unpack and you start your workouts for the upcoming season at that time. People didn't believe me, but let me go back, okay? When I was announcing for the Orioles, two of the best pitchers that we drafted, young guys that came to the Orioles, with Dylan Bundy and Kevin Gosner. And I interviewed them, and I liked interviewing guys. I said, what are you guys going to do when you go home? Well, the first month we go hunting. Oh, okay, that's a good thing. The second month they go fishing, and now they're 2 months into the winter. The third month they go hang out with their buds, play a little golf, all the stuff that they like to do. And 3.5 months into the winter, Mike, they finally start to do something baseball related, like maybe toss a little bit or something. All along they're doing their weight training and stuff like that. But I think the biggest mistake that major league players make right now is they don't realize when you go to spring training, there's 30 games. There's 162 in the season, right? That's 100, and then maybe, who knows, 20 more games in the playoff situation. So you're going to play over 200 games, and you're going to wait 4 or 5 months before you really get into conditioning yourself for baseball. No. I watched Dylan Bundy. I watched Kevin Gosman. Those guys didn't even get up to like 3 innings during spring training of throwing, and they're starting pitchers, and they couldn't finish a game more than half a season before they could go 8 or 9 innings in a game. The biggest thing people forget is what helped you stay healthy, what helped you feel good, what helped you, when you get dinged up, what helps you recover faster. Oxygen. I know I'm not a doctor, but you don't need to be a doctor to understand what oxygen does for you. That's why the second day home, I started my winter workouts. I had 7.5 miles of fire break roads up in the mountains and back then all the way on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You start doing it in times where you're like 6 minutes, and mountain running is a little different. It's not going to be as easy as running around a track. So your times are going to be up in the 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes. So anyway, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I had the long distance runs, okay, up and down fire break roads. On Tuesdays, I did repeat quarters up at the high school, which is one time around the track in 1 minute and 30 seconds with rest in between. Wednesday was the long one. Thursday was 3 miles of 220s, which is a halfway around the track. And those were your sprints. So you had sprint, you had middle distance, you had long distance. And that gave you enough oxygen in your blood to regenerate anything that you've got wrong with you for the winter time. But you can never stop doing the little things that you need to do. You never stop throwing. You may not go out and throw as hard as you would during a ball game, but you still have to keep your arm from atrophy. Atrophy is the biggest thing, that really shuts down so many careers, is because these guys, they let atrophy set in and they think, oh, no, I'm only 27 years old. There's no way. I'm only 25 years old. There's no way. No, it catches up with you, little bits and pieces here. When you play in Baltimore, Mike, you know it, the heat, the humidity. You start off, you go down to Florida, it's hot and humid. Those guys that have been spending all their time in the cold weather, that's a shock to the system. And you've got to be ready to play. I got rid of most of my competition at spring training when I showed up on opening day throwing bullets down to second base, and they said, oh, we're behind. And the next thing you know, I remember Al Pardo was trying to keep up with me. He couldn't do it. A lot of them couldn't do it at that time. But after that, I got that workout. I did that workout before I started pro ball, as I played pro ball, and even after I played pro ball for a while. But, oxygen, I played 27 years. And the only reason I quit with my last year with the Orioles because I got mad at the Orioles. They called me on the phone. They invite me to close out my career with the Orioles, which I love. Of course, it was minimum salary, and which was okay with me because it wasn't ever about the money with me. But Then they only started me one game all season long, and I sat there on the bench. I didn't say anything, but at the end of the season, I did. When I walked into the general manager's office, I was pretty upset. I said, "This is pretty embarrassing, pretty upsetting that you want to bring me back, and then you start me one game all season with 9 at bats." Yeah, it's just, it was insulting, and that's all. But not that I really hold a grudge against any one of them or anything like that, but that's not the right way to act, especially after all the great seasons we all had together when I was there as the catcher and the number one guy with the Orioles.
Yeah, and Mike, you see, Rick was smart. Back in his day, he would combine fishing and hunting into 1 month. He wouldn't spread it out over 2 months like today's ball player does.
Oh, I liked fishing. I didn't like to hunt very much, and I don't like killing deer and that stuff. I went with my uncle a few times, but that's one thing I just didn't like, killing the animals. The fish was different. I love fishing with my kids and everything. I'm a bass fisherman, maybe a little trout here and there, but
Sure.
whatever.
More of the Bmore Baseball Podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
Yeah, times have changed. It's hard, and I think there's a lot to what you're saying about oxygen and conditioning in baseball, because I think for years they've been trying to figure out what is the perfect anecdote for a healthy baseball player, because 162 games is incredibly unique. And you talked about the climate in Florida, the climate in Arizona, but then all of a sudden you go up to cold weather climates and throughout the course of the summer. So climatizing yourself, the travel, the nutrition, there's a lot that goes into that bucket of keeping a baseball player healthy. And I think, you would think by now they might have started figuring some things out, but I'll just go right back to it. I mean, here we go, 2025, and the Orioles almost set a record for most injured players, on the IL. So I would say go back to that run. And like you said, Rick Dempsey, hey, a quick question here, Dumper.
Yeah.
You were part of 2 great organizations and hoisted a World Series trophy with both. I know you used to manage. Were there any aspirations of managing in the big leagues with either the Orioles or the Dodgers, and were you close at any time?
Well, the Orioles, I don't know how many people know this, but Peter Angelos offered me the managing job 3 times.
3 times.
3 times. Yeah, he did. And
Did you say yes? Did you say yes on all 3 occasions?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Good.
I was in a restaurant my 3rd time, and Peter was there with a lawyer friend of his, and he called me over to the table. Hi, Peter, how you doing? He goes, I want you to manage the Orioles this year. I says, okay, I'd be happy to do that. Just give me a call. He goes, okay, that's what I'll do. I'll call you. And unfortunately, I think that was right around the time where Peter got dementia or came close to getting it. But, you know, I loved Peter. I have nothing bad to say about him. He took care of me, it got me, took me off the field actually, and put me in the television booth with everybody. Bordy was there with us. And, it was just one of those things that Peter was always afraid that I was going to get a bad team and people weren't going to like me anymore because the team was losing. You have to deal with that. Earl Weaver, look at him. As great a manager as I believe he was the best I ever played for. Tough guy to get along with, but the best manager I ever played for. And, you're just not going to be able to win every single year because people get hurt. You have to depend on other people taking care of themselves and being able to do the things we've always done. He was a fabulous fundamental manager. There was no doubt about that. There was no team better prepared than the Baltimore Orioles were every single year. But you've really got to stay on top of your team if you're going to keep everybody healthy. I mean, I've had it with all of these great talented guys with the Orioles now. I mean, pitchers and position players. Look at Kramer and Wells, Cano, Akins, Bautista, Rodriguez. I mean, these guys are the cream of the crop. I mean, I saw them all pitch. I've seen, and they were incredible how much power they had, the velocity they had, the ability that they had. And they can't stay healthy. That's frustrating. Not only for the organization, but ownership too. They got to pay these guys too while they sit there and watch ball games. And look at the kind of ball club, Mike, they have. And you guys, Holiday, Henderson, and my favorite, Atlee Rushman. I still believe Atlee Rushman can be the best catcher in baseball. Switch hitter, good hitter from both sides. He calls a good ball game, has a great relationship with the pitchers. This guy can do it all. The one thing he needs to do is get back in top condition, and get back there and catch 135, 40 ball games for the season. He can do it, They still have a great team. They got Mountcastle back. I've been hearing about Holiday, Westberg, Cowser, Kirstead. They've got the talent to win it all. They've got the pitching to win it all. They establish a closer. They've got that guy too. Once he gets, was it Bautista who got hurt? He was the closer?
Yeah.
And this guy has great stuff. It's all still there. Get yourself prepared for a baseball season and show what you're capable of doing. And that team will come right back together and be back on top in no time.
They also have a new manager in Craig Albernaz. I don't know how much you know about this guy. He's assembled a rather young staff, though. There's not many guys around the age of 50 or above working inside that clubhouse in terms of coaches or managers.
Yeah, what's wrong with bringing back some veteran guys that have been part of winning atmospheres around Baltimore and have them being able to advise these guys on how to keep themselves prepared to play? We don't have that. We don't have the experience in the coaching staff. Now, I don't know, if I was managing, I would want guys with better baseball knowledge than myself helping me manage a ball club like the Orioles. And that's just the bottom line. You can't bring guys in that never played at the major league level and expecting that they're going to be able to tell these guys what it feels like to lose 3 or 4 games in a row or 7, and how to adjust and how to react to that sort of stuff. I mean, the coaching staff can only do so much. The manager has to make an impression on these guys on what is expected of them. In this game today, where in 1 year you could set yourself up for the rest of your life with the millions of dollars that they're going to pay you, 3, 4, 5 million in 1 year. It's an opportunity that you can't pass on. Oh my God, Mike, how much money would you have made, setting the record for the most airless games and doing what you did defensively? I didn't do a whole lot offensively until playoff and World Series time. But,
yeah, you only caught 4 decades. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah. You got Eddie Murray and Cal Ripken and all the boppers we had on that ball club, I got lost in the shuffle. When Earl Weaver told me he wanted me to pull the ball down the left field line, hit that yellow ball down there, hit the home run, you'll play every day. No, I think Earl would have liked it if I do what I did most of my time in the minor league. I was up at 365. I even hit 600 one time in instructional league. Does that count?
Sort of.
Or
What
those
did you
hits were off of Jim Palmer.
So, we just had the deal with Grayson Rodriguez. They go ahead and acquire Taylor Ward from the Angels. What did you think about them deciding to give up on Grayson?
I don't know the insides of that deal and how important it was for him to get the right-handed big hitter that they ended up getting in that deal. Ward, was that his name, Ward? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't criticize anybody for that move right here. The thing is that, when you think about getting rid of a pitcher like Rodriguez, big, strong, throws the ball up there, 100 miles an hour, legit 100 miles an hour, it's hard to, get away from that. Now, I would say that Rodriguez maybe didn't keep himself in as good a shape as he should have, because a pitcher like him, and I equate all of them to like a Jim Palmer. They threw the ball harder than Jim. They had really good pitches. They should be able, if they condition, there's that word again, if they condition themselves properly not to get hurt, you've got a guy out there that's going to win 20 games every season, and go deeper into ball games. And if you notice too, the Dodgers got away from the analytics a little bit in that World Series. Dave, the manager of the Dodgers, I didn't see all that analytical stuff, especially as it got tight down the last 3 games of that World Series when they had to win some games.
Yep.
Yamamoto, imagine that.
How about
he
it?
goes and pitches 9 innings in a ball game and tells the manager the next day on the 7th game that he wants to be in there. I want to close this out for you. I'm going to win this for you, because that's the way they play the game in his country. And what? That's the way we should be playing it in our country. You've got to work hard at it. I'm sorry, and you got to put the time in. Every little thing that you do. I can just remember my days down at the high school in the middle of the winter time. I would be throwing to the bases by myself. 40 throws I had 40 balls in my basket, and I threw 40 throws down to third, 40 to second, and 40 to that's 120. I don't know any pitchers who can even come close to throwing that. But I worked on the work. If a ball was up and in, that's the way I would work. And I'm sure, Mike, you went through little things too, working on your defense, on just how to move your body on certain pitches, backhand the ball to the side, backhand it, whatever.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
Working.
It's all about learning the most efficient move, the most athletic move you can make, staying strong on the field. But, we had Hall of Famer John Smoltz on last week talking about, the World Series and how upset he was in analytics and handling pitching because of the health and just what you're talking about, the conditioning, just keeping pitchers healthy. It's like ruining the game. Your thoughts on that max effort style of pitching? And as a catcher, you have the best view of seeing what a pitcher can do, what he can't do out on the mound. And if you were sitting there watching a pitcher's head jerk all over the place, what kind of stuff would you say to him?
Mike, I just want to remind you of one thing. Toronto had the Dodgers by the tail because what happened when they brought that young guy in that started off the season in A ball? What pitch was he throwing? The Dodgers couldn't even come close to fouling a ball off. Yeah, I forget his name real quick. What was his name? The right-hander that came
Savage.
in. Yeah, there you go.
Savage, yeah.
And you know what? It was a split finger fastball, which is basically a changeup, a different way to hold a changeup. And I said to myself, now watch they're going to bring him back in the 9th game. In the 7th game of that World Series if they have to get through it, and they did, but he wasn't quite as effective that next day when they brought him back in. But changing speeds is always going to be the way. It isn't about that 99-mile-an-hour fastball that really on the gun. Be honest, on the gun today, it's 94 and a half. It's 95. I've caught enough guys that threw 100 miles an hour. I can watch them and tell you exactly how much that is. So stop cheating on the gun and talk about it. People don't care as long as their team wins. It doesn't matter. You bring a guy in that's got a great changeup, a great curveball or something like that. You see a lot of that still. It isn't all about, but we're hurting good young pitching by telling them you got to go out there and throw as hard as you can. That's not the way to handle good young talent. As you get a little older, and if you put the time in the wintertime, working on your mechanics, all of a sudden you'll pick up a mile, 2 miles per hour, a little bit more. Watch a guy like Jim Palmer pitch with all that big high leg kick and everything that he had. But his release point told me what kind of game I was going to have with him, because it was right out there in front with a little pop at the end. It didn't matter. I didn't get it. He made a good turn during the course of his delivery. I always, even after I left the Orioles, guys like Tim Belcher and Tim Leary, I used to say, warm them up in between. It's another mistake that Major League Baseball makes, and I don't mind saying it, is that you don't have a high school kid and a college kid coming in working with all your pitchers at the Major League level. Get a quality catcher, somebody that's going to handle him during the game. I know it's hard to do. I hated to do it myself because it took a little more time, but you've got to work on that guy's release point. When he gets his release point, his velocity will maximize out. If you're way out here, if you're way out there when you're releasing the ball, it's not going to have as much giddy up as it has when you're right here, right out in front. So you've got to work on those things. When your pitcher throws a couple good pitches on the sidelines, well, then you got it. You're going to leave him that day with all of his good mechanics. Bring that same mechanic into the ballgame. So I used to tell Tim Belcher all the time, you're the best 5-inning pitcher. And he'd have a chokehold like this up against the wall. Why did you tell the general manager that? I said, because it's true, Timmy. He was 6'4". I wasn't going to mess with him too much, and I loved him. He was my favorite player. But I said, something? Show me one number on your back. When you make a turn like that to show, your hand gets back here, and then you're going to get maximum help from your body to release a good pitch. And when it pops in there, Timmy could throw 100 miles an hour. He could get it up there. So when he won his 100th game, he sent me a ball, and I think it's up on the wall over here, and a letter saying, thank you for helping me. You made the biggest impact on my career, and I appreciate it. I finally won my 100th game. I'm giving you one of the balls. I said, thank you, Tim. I'm crying.
That's awesome. Hey, Rick, we really appreciate you taking the time. Always grateful to catch up and talk baseball with you. You be well. We look forward to seeing you back in Baltimore soon.
Thanks, Demper. Love you, man.
Are we dumping this interview already? I've got a lot more to say.
Rick, we've gone 26 minutes, so you're setting a record for our guests.
Oh, okay. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for having me.
Now, I'll tell you in all honesty, we could make it a 2-parter, but this is our final episode. So again, very grateful for your time.
Thanks.
You're very welcome. Call me anytime you want. Good to see you again.
You too,
all
brother.
Right, Mike. I'll talk to you down the road. Thanks, guys.
It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flower, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy, treat yourself with Encore chocolates, relax with an Avexia bath soak, or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve 8th. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
All right, let's get into For the Birds, which is always sponsored by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. Playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and the myths by going to mdlottery.com. That's mdlottery.com. And as always, please play responsibly. All right, let's get back into what we were talking about a little bit during the course of the conversation with Demper, and that was the trade of Grayson Rodriguez. Since our last podcast, President of Baseball Operations and pseudo GM Mike Elias spoke about the deal, and he addressed the trade of Grayson. And here's what he had to say about their off-injured, once thought of ace pitcher being dealt to the Angels for Taylor Ward.
I mean, there's frustration about the bad luck of it, and that's disappointing. And Grayson's a great kid. We loved bringing him up in this organization and rearing him, and he's got a bright future.
All right, those last two words, bright future. That's what stuck out with me. Why would you say that about a guy you just traded? I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. And they're proud of developing him. And it doesn't make really any baseball sense to me. And I don't think a lot of people in the industry, because you still have 4 years of control. That's why the Angels are just licking their lips. Even if 3 years don't work out and he pitches for 1 year, I think it's still pretty valuable because of the need for pitching. Everybody needs pitching. The one thing that the Orioles actually have are some outfielders, even in their organization. So, getting Ward might be nice on the outside. Yeah, because he has so many home runs. It was a career year for him. The way I look at this is just a piece that they're going to use to trade come the trade deadline. You know, a veteran guy, they're not going to re-sign him as a free agent. No way. He's just another trade piece to possibly bring back some prospects in the middle of the season.
Wow. If that were to occur, I think a lot of Oriole fans would be scratching their heads saying, what are we doing here? But in Elias's defense, he also added that he was concerned about having Rodriguez with his injuries, part of a rotation with guys who have been recently injured, from Tyler Wells to Kyle Bradish to even Trevor Rogers. Porter, your response?
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, there's definitely a concern because so many injuries, but where else are you going to get the innings? I mean, listen, this organization right now is so depleted of pitching. They're going to have to pull off a major haul this offseason to just get enough to stay relevant, if you ask me, because listen, Bradish, is he going to come out and throw 200 innings next year? No, not a chance. He's not even going to come close. The most he's ever thrown is 160. How about Wells? Not even close. This guy, we'll be lucky if we get 50 innings out of him. So where are all the innings going to come from, right? And Grayson Rodriguez, we were taking a chance hoping that you might be able to get 40 or 50 innings out of him. We were hoping that we might see him pitch again. This is my question. Needing arms anyway, what about bullpen pieces? If Grayson all of a sudden got healthy, why not slide him into the bullpen to manage his innings more, build him up a little bit? So many things on the surface of this trade really don't make sense. I think that arm should have been kept in the organization as long as you possibly could.
And Elias, he's not ignoring that whatsoever. He realizes the big picture. Here's what he said about pursuing pitching.
Whether it's top or front or top half of the rotation, all those buckets. I mean, we're trying, and there are guys out there, and we are in pursuit of every one of them.
They're in pursuit of every one of those free agents out there, from Framber, Valdez to a guy you've never heard of. whether or not they're going to have enough money to get one of these guys. But you're right. They need more guys that can go at least 150 frames, a little more depth in this rotation.
Yeah, well, no doubt about it. So they're going to scour the free agent market, as you heard. They're going to try to work trades, whatever they can possibly do outside the organization. Listen, nobody can afford pitching nowadays. Develop pitching, please. I'm sick and tired of all these offensive players that can't play defense. How about draft some pitching and just fill it up and develop some pitching one time? The Orioles have to do that unless they're going to be dropping 300 to 500 million every time a free agent pitcher hits the market, because that's going to be the cost of it nowadays. I mean, the only teams that can afford pitching in the major league level are the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the Blue Jays try as well, maybe a couple more teams in there, but nobody can afford front-line starting pitching. The Orioles better commit to developing within this organization.
Unfortunately, when they develop a pitcher, usually he gets traded away. I mean, we've seen it in the past at DL Hall. I mean, you can go back, Jake Arrieta, Kevin Gausman, all these guys have gone elsewhere and performed better, but they've been homegrown talents. And, Grayson Rodriguez, the latest example.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I don't know. Some of this stuff really doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if you're all in on analytics, you got all this stuff working, the pitching factory, this and that. Let's go develop some of these arms, especially young guys where you can at least take some chances on running them out there early, at least maximize their velocity before they get hurt. I don't know. And they still haven't really define their philosophy, their pitching philosophy, really their analytic philosophy, because some of these things just don't make sense. And if you're telling me that this Grayson Rodriguez move was an analytic move, that is a huge head scratcher that leaves everybody just wondering, what are we doing here?
One other thing regarding this trade I wanted to touch on, because now there's a glut a little bit to a degree in the outfield. I mean, by adding Ward, you still have O'Neill and Jackson, and Cowser's out there, Beavers. What about trading away one of these guys? I mean, someone suggested maybe a trade involving a Colton Cowser or Dylan Beavers, because they would have more value than the rest of the guys I named.
Well, it could potentially happen. There's no doubt about that. And what about Erstad? I mean, are we really going to give him another try up here? I mean, I guess we're going to, but
I don't know what his value is, though, right?
No, absolutely. There isn't a lot after what we witnessed last season. But what about Enrique Bradfield? There are some guys in the minor leagues that probably deserve some shots as well. But yeah, I do think there are going to be trades. This is a really interesting spot for this organization, because it's no longer that ability to lose, and all of a sudden be able to get that first round pick. So now you really have to be creative and have a true understanding of how this is all going to work. And right now, it doesn't seem like there's a real understanding of what's happening, especially with the Grayson Rodriguez trade to lead this winter off.
Yes, certainly. All right, on to Baltimore and beyond. It's brought to you by our friends over at Relief Shop. Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary, with 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery always available for medical patients, courtesy of Relief Shop right there on Cathedral Street. And they've been a loyal, dedicated sponsor since day one of this podcast. The Hall of Fame class finalists, they've been revealed for 2026, Sporty. Who is worthy, if anyone? We'll find out in January, about 2 months from now. There's a strong belief that Carlos Beltran and or Andrew Jones could finally get in. They have come up short previously of the required 75% vote from the Baseball Writers Association of America. For Beltran, it's his 4th time on the ballot. Andrew Jones is on there for a 9th time. I've always said someone almost has to get in every year because it's financially beneficial for the town of Cooperstown. Okay, this is what their year is revolving around, the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. 4 years ago, we had no one go in. That was the year that, Schilling didn't get in, Bonds, Clemens, Schilling took his name off the ballot. It was a steroid year, but that was a bad year for Cooperstown in terms of finances too. But who, if anyone, gets in this go around?
Yeah, well, you mentioned it there. Carlos Beltran and Jones, I think, are the two favorites for sure. And only because, their stock has been rising. Every year they've been on the ballot. their vote numbers kind of get up their percentage, and it takes 75%. And I think Beltran was at 70% last year, and Jones was up in the high 60%, 68%, something like that. So it seems inevitable that they will get in this year because, yeah, as you said, they really need somebody. But every year when the Hall of Fame, gets talked about and guys start being judged and their numbers and the eras they played in, there are so many head-scratching players that come up. Why aren't they in the Hall of Fame? And who are we comparing guys to now? So when we talk about a player like Andrew Jones, who in his 10-year window was hands down the best center fielder in the game, and he was going on to become, in everybody's mind, the best to ever play the position. I mean, he had 10 Gold Gloves in a row. He was hit for power. I think he had a 50 home run season. He just did a lot of incredible things well, and he came up at such a young age. And there's the argument there. The great players typically have an 8 to 10-year window where they separate themselves as the best. And I know every year names get brought up like Keith Hernandez and Don Mattingly, Vita Blue, and we could go on and on about why aren't they in there? And they have those same kind of 10-year windows. So that's a great argument. And I think forever we could put guys into the Hall of Fame, that if we look back and take a look at their numbers and that window when they were the best, so many guys I think are truly deserving about being in there.
Yeah, I will tell you that our guest last week, the Hall of Famer John Smoltz, believes that Andrew Jones should join him in Cooperstown one of these days. Also on the ballot for the first time ever is one of our former guests earlier this year, Nick Markakis, who I think realizes he's not going to Cooperstown, but he's a first ballot Hall of Very, Very Good.
Yeah,
number. No doubt about that.
No doubt about it, man. You want to talk about what baseball is truly about? It's players like Nick Markakis, B.J. Surhoff. I mean, those just great players, maybe 2-time All-Stars, 3-time All-Stars, couple Gold Gloves, but just what baseball is truly all about. The ability to
Adam Jones would fit in that category too, probably.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, my gosh, Adam Jones had like a 5 or 6 year stretch where he was like best center fielder in baseball, hands down. So, I mean, all these guys deserve, their praise and maybe come up just a little bit short. But I'll tell you this too. Think about Markakis, think about Jones. I mean, these guys didn't do steroids or anything like that. They were just great players. So they should be considered and will every year, I think, be considered until they're off the ballot. And who knows, maybe one day the Veterans Committee might say those guys truly deserve to be on because they did it the right way. They played it well and they played it at a high level.
I don't know if there's a Hall of Fame for doctors, but Dr. Michael Jacobs, who 30 years spent time as the Orioles team doctor, joining us here. Doc, thanks for taking the time. Let's get back to Grayson Rodriguez. He's now with the Angels, as we all know, a team that appears to be less involved in analytics than, the Orioles and most of Major League Baseball. It did not seem they were as concerned about his arm injuries and his elbow as the Orioles were. What do you make of that?
Well, I'll do that. 2 quick comments. I think you forgot we had Josh Hader and traded him away. And what you probably don't know is that we were offered Framber Valdez for Zach Britton. Dan Duquette set that deal up, and for some reason it didn't go down. So we could have had Valdez when we traded Britton because I was part of that. I don't understand the Rodriguez deal. I think it could be a career-ending move for Mike. As Mike Bordick said, as opposed to Mike Elias, the age and the money make absolutely no sense. I don't really know how good Ward is. Fundamentally, Rodriguez has nothing wrong with him. He's a young man we drafted as maybe a 6 foot, 160-pound high school young man over Libertor and a number of other people. He was the top prospect there. He's turned into a very large, physically fit, 6 foot 5 inch, 240-pound man. I know he's had some muscle injuries, soft tissue injuries, but he's never had any kind of significant shoulder or elbow injury. The fact of the matter is that if he really had a bone spur that was a problem, it would have been removed earlier in the season. He's had multiple MRIs. He went to see, I know how the Orioles work because I set it up. I'm sure he saw Meister or Elatrash or Bose. I suspect his agent sent him somewhere. If anybody had found anything structural, he would have had surgery earlier. In my line of work, when nothing works, you scope it. That's kind of where you go because you just don't have any more answers. When you operate on people, particularly Major League Baseball players, you have to come up with an answer. If they went into his elbow and said, we didn't find anything, you wouldn't be doing Major League players anymore. Every time you come out of a surgery, the answer is, you're going to be fine, and we found something. I'm sure he had a small bone spur. I sincerely doubt it was hurting him. I think he's a victim of analytics. I think he's a victim of overthinking. I think he spent too much time in the pitching lab where the computer guys are looking at stick figures. I think all he really needs to be done is be left alone, get a real pitching coach who actually pitched. And the Angels, as was said, they tend to be going away from the 100% analytics approach we have. Dom Cheedy, who we had, is a great minor league instructor. Mike Maddox is a fabulous professor or pitching coach who's actually pitched. I think if they just leave him alone, tell him to forget everything he heard here, throw the ball, and they leave him to Mike Maddox, he will turn out to be a very successful pitcher. How long that'll take is hard to say, but I think that's really all he needs to do is get a real pitching coach who's actually pitched and be left alone and brought along gradually. And I think it's going to be great for him. The fact of the matter is the Angels have the Curl and Job Clinic behind them, among other people. They have top-notch people, and they didn't even examine Rodriguez. They just looked at the medical records. They looked at the scans and said, he's good enough for me. So I think that tells you all you need to know. He just needs a change of scenery and a different approach to pitching. I can't believe we gave away a guy with that upside and 4 years of control and a moderate price by today's standards for a one-year rental who's coming off a career year.
Well, Doc, let me ask you a rare follow-up, because I mentioned earlier that Elias admitted that he was a little concerned about Wells' history, Bradish's arm history, and Rogers all having recent ailments. Didn't want a rotation full of those guys, and that's why they decided, okay, Grayson is the odd man out.
Well, Tyler, we got as a Rule 5 guy. He's a wonderful young man. He is a big guy, but he's never been healthy either. He was a reliever, then he was a starter, then he was a starter. He was having problems. He's had 2 Tommy John operations. You can't count on Tyler Wells to be a starter. As Mike said, Bradish has never pitched more than 160-some innings, I think Mike said. In addition to that, Bradish's big pitch is a killer slider that he really yanks on. And towards the end of the 23 season, he was throwing that 5 out of 6 times. And I said something to Brandon about he can't keep throwing that pitch. So he looked great last year, but again, he can't live off that slider. So I don't think you can count on him for more than 140 innings. So I think it's legitimate. As for Rogers, his knee injury is cured. I think the thing you got to worry about with Rogers is how somebody goes from 89 miles an hour to 94 miles an hour without doing anything. And is that reproducible? I think the Rogers issue is more of a baseball issue, which is the real Rogers, the guy we got or the guy who pitched the last half of last year. So as Mike said, he doesn't have a reliable core, but Rodriguez is still inexpensive, throws hard, could have a bullpen option, and they're still going to have to go out and reel in 2 solid starters to go with Dean Kramer, who's the only reliable pitcher we got.
Doc, thank you. Really excellent stuff. It was our privilege to have you all season long, and look forward to another year ahead. We want to thank our sponsors, not only the Doc, but our loyal, dedicated sponsors who have powered this podcast since day one. You know who you are out there, from Relief Shop to Pappas Seafood, Lido Pizza. I could go on, Maryland Lottery. Thanks to all of you.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flour, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy. Treat yourself with Encore chocolates. Relax with an Avexia bath soak. Or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve 8th. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Thanks to Senior Executive Producer, he doesn't like me saying his name, but his name is Chip Franklin, for putting this latest episode together. And Senior Executive Intern, who has gone above and beyond, that's Grant DeVivo. Great job, Bordy. It's been nothing but a pleasure doing these 40 episodes with you. Your agent called me last night and said this is the end, but I'm hoping to renegotiate here in the off season. So until next time, be real, be kind, and make sure to be back for another episode next season in March for the Bmore Baseball Podcast. We are out.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.